Welcome to the Repurpose Your Purpose podcast. I'm your host, Aurora Meneghello, and this podcast is really for you if you want some inspiration, ideas, or just some nice listening about being happy at work, whether you're looking for your next career, growing your business, or learning how to be a more effective leader. All right, so today I'm so excited to have here Malin Svensson with me. Hi, Malin. Thank you so much for joining me.
Hi, so happy to be here.
So before I start asking you a bunch of questions, so you can share your story, I am going to share a little bit about you with everybody. So here it is. Originally from Sweden, Malin Svensson came to Los Angeles with a master's degree in physical education and became certified by the National Academy of Sports Medicine in 2000. This year, The Hollywood Reporter named Malin the celebrity trainer for the 50 plus, including clients like Jane Fonda, Jamie Lee Curtis, and Maria Shriver. She's also an international fitness coach, author, speaker, and her third published book, Wake Up Your Body Plus Mind After 50, launched in 2020. Wow, this is so exciting.
Ah,
So, I am curious. I actually, I don't know too much about your story. How did you get interested in sports? And yeah, I'm curious.
well,
Start us
that's
from the
easy.
beginning.
I grew up in Sweden. My family, we're a big family, 6 kids. I'm number six. And we had a very active lifestyle. Our quality times together as a family was done a lot of outdoors, walking in the forest, by the beach, in the mountains. And my mom, she was a physical ed teacher, and one of my sisters became a physical ed teacher as well. And when I was 12, 13 years old, I visited my sister at her sports university, and I had never ridden an elevator. And she had an elevator up to her dormitory. And I was like, I want to be a physical ed teacher too, because I want to ride an elevator. Well, many years later, I did become a physical ed teacher. I have a master's degree in physical education from my Swedish university. And I was also one of Sweden's top 5 runners. And that was mainly another sister who was a runner. I was more sailing and playing tennis, but then I grew one year quite a lot, quite fast. And my knees were just killing me with playing tennis indoors, which we had to do in Sweden in the wintertime. So running was much easier for me or on my body. And I started to run, and suddenly I became a top runner in Sweden. And it was my life. It was everything to me. I competed. I lived my life around the competitions, training for it, rain, snow, anytime I was out there doing my training. And so it was very an easy choice for me to become again go to sports university like my oldest sister and my mom.
Wow. That's so interesting. And to me it's really fascinating because I am not very athletic. So I always find it fascinating to hear these stories. It makes me imagine what it's like to think completely different about this and have that feeling. So I have another question for you. So what brought you here to the United States?
Say that again.
What brought you here to Los Angeles?
Oh, my adventurous spirit. I was very restless in Sweden. I would be in Sweden for a year and a half. And then I was just, oh, I got to get out of here. I took my backpack and my sleeping bag and I traveled around Europe. And then I came back and I was like, okay, I got to finish up a little bit more of my university. And it was back and forth for a long time. I was super restless. I just could not find my roots in Sweden. And I had been a private exchange student in San Diego when I was 16. And I think the seed was planted when I was there. I had a whole year without snow, without rain. And I was like, wow, you can live like this all year round. And I think that pulled me back. I always wanted to come back to Southern California. And then when I was 5 years old, I started to do some theater, community theater, but I loved it so much. So acting as a hobby had been huge for me throughout my whole childhood, through school, through university. And then I had a boyfriend who actually was a professional actor. I was like, what? You can be a professional actor? How fun is that? So I decided to go back to Southern California, to Los Angeles, to Hollywood, and give it a go. But of course, I had to get a green card first. So I put an ad in back then, the LA Times. This is back in 1989. And I had a few, like maybe 8 replies, and I chose the one that I wanted to stay with, a family. I wanted to take care of their house in exchange for room and board. I didn't want to be an au pair because I wanted to have the
Mm.
freedom. So I took care of a house in exchange for room and board. And then eventually I worked on my legal status and became and got a green card. And when I got the green card, I opened up my own business. And since my expertise was in fitness, I became a personal fitness trainer and had the acting on the side. And then a few years later, the physical, the fitness training was just so much more fun and productive. So I wrapped up my entertainment boxes and just focused 150% on the fitness business.
Wow, and I think I read that you were the first female Nordic walking instructor.
Ah, yeah,
Is that
Nordic
right?
walking was introduced to me in 2002. And it was actually my brother and brother-in-law. Always when I went back to Sweden, we would always brainstorm about what can I bring back to the United States that would be so different than anything else. And one day or one trip back to Sweden, my brother, who's a doctor, he said, what about Nordic walking? And of course, we don't call it like that in Sweden. In Swedish, we say stavgång. So I was like, what is that? And they explained to me. And my brother in law is from Finland originally. And of course, he had friends and business partners that knew about Excel, which was the first Nordic walking pole company. And so I was connected with them, and they brought me over to Finland in 2002 in August. And I was part of the very first International Nordic Walking Association's summit convention. And I learned how to do it, but there was no technique. There was no, I come from a teaching background. So I'm big on like, okay, if I learn something, I need to be able to turn around and teach that in steps. Like first you do this, then you do this. Well, nobody
Mm.
had done that. So I actually created the 10 steps that they still today in the INWA, the Nordic Walking Association, use, and also in their manual, of course. So Nordic walking, yeah, I was the first one bringing it over to North America, and the media loved it, of course, because it was something new and different. And that became kind of what people knew me as. But even though my expertise was more in correcting muscular imbalances via strength training, but I used the Nordic walking as a nice platform to grow my business and also be speaking as a fitness professional in front of other fitness professionals.
Mm. Wow. So does the term you use in Swedish for Nordic walking mean something particular? How would you
Stav is like a pole, gong is walking.
Oh, walking
So it's
with with
pole
a pole.
walking if I translate it.
All right. I like Nordic walking.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. So, all right. I'm curious, how did you choose to focus your business on the over 50 crowd?
I think it happened again, I'm going to say it's planted a seed. That's how my whole life is that a seed is planted, and then X amount of years later, I'm in front of what was planted in my brain many years ago. So this started when I was 12
Mm,
years old. My dad turned 50. He got a painting as a gift, and the painting depicted life from birth to death in form of an arch.
mm,
And at the top of the arch, you were 50. And from then it was downhill. And I was like, I was thinking to myself, I am not going to live my life like that. I'm going to live my life like an ascending staircase where each decade is a new step, it's a new
mm,
chapter, new growth. And again, I think the seed was planted when I was 12 years old. And then fast forward, when I came to Los Angeles and started my fitness business, I just happened to work with people that were, in their 40s, close to 50s, and they referred me to other clients. I mean, I worked with younger ones as well. And the interesting thing is, I have worked out people that are in their 20s that
mm,
are in bad shape,
mm,
and people in their 70s that are in great shape.
mm,
So age for me is just a chronological order, but I just happen to have focused on the 50 plus crowd for the last 35 years. And it's been just wonderful to see how some people age very well and how some people don't. So I
mm.
kind of become an expert in aging, how to age with confidence, what to do and what not to do. And it feels really good to be able to empower the 50 plus to live a fun, healthy, and fulfilling life at any age.
I'm thinking I have to hire you in a few years.
In a few years. What are you doing now?
All right, maybe now. Oh my God. Well, I'm curious. This is totally something that I found. I wonder if you have a theory about that images planted in your mind. You
A
know,
theory about what?
you said that there were these images, these seeds
Oh, yeah.
planted, and there is this theory that says that sort of like we come into the world like knowing what's for us, and we recognize it when we see it, even as children. And I'm curious if that's your theory or how you explain this. If you have an
I
explanation, I don't know.
I think that's a great explanation.
Mm.
I think I have lived many lives. I think I'm an old soul.
Mm.
And when I worked with Olympia Dukakis many, many years ago, she actually said that. I didn't understand the word innate because it was not in
Mm.
my vocabulary coming from Sweden. She said, Malin, this is innate with you. Working with the 50 plus, you just know exactly what to do. It's like you're born with it. It's your calling. And I was like, yeah, you're right. And I just went down memory lane, and that's in my book, which is Wake Up Your Body and Mind After 50. And I wrote about how, it started when I was 12. And then with my grandmother, she had a bad arm, and I would work with her, kind of doing a little physical therapy, throwing a ball. She would catch it. And I remember I got so frustrated with her because she couldn't catch it. I was like, what's wrong with you? I was a teenager, an athlete, and she had an injured arm, and she was in
Mm.
her, 70s. And she was the sweetest person. But I remember that moment she stopped and she caught the ball and she said, Malin, I'm going to look down at you when you're my age and see how you're doing. And I thought that was so funny. But I have always been drawn to, when every summer job was working with the elderly at hospitals. And I remember one summer, you would come in as a summer assistant to nurses at these different hospitals, and you were full of energy and you just wanted to change the world. And so I would always come in and have all these ideas. And I would get so sad when I saw all these elderly, some of them were mentally not there, some of them not physically there fully. And I would say, it's so sad to just see they're doing the same thing over and over again. It's just such a like on autopilot. And I was like, hey, let's shake things up. Let's have a party. Let's have a masquerade. Let's have a barbecue. So we had a masquerade, and people were asked if they wanted to participate and what they wanted to be. Some people want to be a cowboy, etc. So I would help them dress up for the masquerade, and it was just so much fun. And you could see their smiles and their eyes were lit up. They were doing something different. And I just get very emotional when I think about it, because it was just yeah, it was kind of a gift that I was able to give them when they were at the end of their life and maybe not having so much fun. And so it's very important to me.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, it's okay.
I
Yeah.
don't know what happened. I don't know why I got so emotional, but it's
Yeah.
it's just very very meaningful to me to empower anyone 50 plus, especially, but anyone. But I've seen so many people that are aging, that are lonely, that are depressed, and to just bring them into a community with like-minded people and to cheer them on. I see it all over again with people that might be alone, sitting at home, losing their friends and getting more and more depressed. And then they're brought into a community where there's activities, there's other people that are like them, their age, and it's like they get their juices back, their batteries is recharged. And that's what we need to do. We just need to, we can't kick people out just because they're getting, they're aging, which we actually started to do when we first were made. We started to
Right.
age, right?
That's
It's like
right.
there's a
That's right.
golden year. Like when we get to be 21, everyone is like longing to get older. I can't wait till I'm this age and this age. And then when you're 21, it's like, oh my God, next year I'm 22. And I actually had my only age crisis when I was 22. I've never had an age crisis since then. That's why I'm talking, I can speak from own personal experience. I was traveling was very important to me after I quit my running career. I just started to travel and enjoy that. And I loved living in Paris. And if you live in Paris and support yourself, every other person is a model. And I was asked to model. So I lived in Paris and did some modeling. And you would look at everyone's photo, books when they came to different auditions. And there would be people that, women that would be 16, 17 years old. And I was 22. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so old.
Oh no.
So
No.
that is the only time in my whole life that I've ever had an age crisis. After that, I look forward to every decade. When I turn 40, when I turn 50, when I turn 60, it's like I prepare for the next decade. What is going to be my adventure? What is my goal? What am I going to do? So I'm very excited I'm excited about birthdays in general, not just my own, but other people, because for me, it's a celebration of them being in my life, that I met them, a celebration that they're here, that they're alive. And that's how I look at birthdays. But also when you turn even, when it's a decade, it's kind of extra special, because it's like, okay, turning the page, what's next? And so yeah, so the 22 is maybe an age that people after that they're afraid of getting older. But then when we come to a certain age, it's almost look like it's a weakness. It's a weakness to age. Whereas, 100 years ago, if you had a village with the elderly, it was to them you went to get advice. They respected elderly. And that's not how society is today. And that is kind of what I'd like to get back to with the people that I'm working with, that is in my community. I'd like to just get everyone on board and say, just because we're aging, there is nothing wrong with that. I mean, it's a privilege to age, to be able to get older. It's a privilege. Not everyone has that luxury. And to be able to have two arms and two legs and move, it's a privilege.
Can you hear me? You totally froze there.
Yeah.
I heard you up until it was a privilege. It's a privilege
Oh, okay.
to age.
Yes, I feel it's a privilege to age. Not everyone has the privilege to get older.
Mm,
And some people, they forget about that. We just see today that getting older, oh, I don't want to get older. Well,
mm.
what is the alternative? Do you want to
Right.
die? So make the best out of it. You can get stronger in both body and mind. You can reinvent yourself. If you want to change careers, nothing is ever too late. I've worked with people in their 70s, 80s, 90s that have reinventing themselves. So I just feel, again, age is a chronological number. It just tells us how many years you've been on this planet, but it doesn't say anything about how you are at heart, how young or old you are at heart.
I love it. I love so much of what you're saying. I think, one of the things that I really noticed when I moved from Italy to California was even like the different way age was taken. Like, so I don't know now in Italy, right? But when I was growing up, somebody in their 40s was like, you were done. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and it's just like it's so ridiculous. And I've always felt I'm a little bit like you, where like I think the only time I felt too old was in my late teens, early 20s. And then I kept feeling like, wow, I learn more. I have more experiences. I know more people. My moods settled a little bit, like I understand better myself. I don't know. I feel like it's this great adventure, you
Yeah.
know? And the mind and the body are so intertwined. What you're doing really helps, with everything. Because if you don't have your physical health and your mobility, a lot of things get hard. So,
Yeah, the mind is so important, our brain. And there are 6 pillars that you want to follow to
mm,
have a healthy brain. And that is nutrition, exercise, sleep enough, how you deal with stress,
mm,
and that you keep learning, and your social skills. So those are
mm.
the 6 pillars that you really want to focus on to have a healthy brain.
That's fantastic. All right, so I really want to ask you, how did you end up becoming the personal trainer of Jane Fonda? How did that come
Ah,
about?
well, she actually walked up to me at a gym and asked me if I could train her. And I had my phone and I was like, okay, let's see here my schedule when I can fit you in. And of course, I was just kidding. I took down her number and I texted her back pretty much the same day to tell her my availability, and we started to work out.
Wow. Was it like, I don't know, was it intimidating working with somebody like Jane Fonda, or was it
Three
just
seconds.
3 seconds?
For
Okay.
3 seconds, I was starstruck. But she is so down to earth. She just pulled me down and I just felt grounded. Ever since, I've never felt starstruck or intimidated. That's just how she is with everyone. She's just
Mm,
very, very down to earth and make you feel very comfortable. And she will talk to everyone. That's just how she is. And she's become a friend. She's very yeah, I mean, we do things together, and when she travels, I always send her photos of my cats. She loves stories about my cats, what they're doing.
that's
So
awesome.
it's really fun. She's amazing. I mean, sometimes when she's on TV or media, I really have to pinch myself. I was like, oh my God, am I really working out with Jane Fonda? But when I'm with her, it's just like another human being who
Mm,
is just amazing. I'm totally She's my role model in aging, mainly because of her drive.
Mm,
She has an amazing drive. She has always wanted to make this world a better place. And
mm,
that's what is most inspiring about her for me, to have that purpose, to
mm,
always have that drive to make things better for other people. That is just astounding to me. Today, she's 86 years old. She's very open with her age. She's just a very open person. People know more about her than anyone else that is a public figure. And there are things she talks about and tells people about herself that I would not tell people about myself. So she's just amazing. She's just very open, and the drive to make a difference. She was in 2019, she has said publicly that she was a little bit depressed, and how the environment was just, it was just going downhill, and she wanted to do something. And then when she decided to take action, her depression went away. So that is so important. That's what I'm saying. When we're aging, you can always have a purpose. You can always feel needed. You can always feel there's something else I can contribute with. I just had a podcast myself. It's called Age and Attitude. And one of my friends and clients that I interviewed yesterday, she's 88 going on 89. She's a real estate legend. She was very, very close with Johnny Carson. And she said she had tried to retire 10 years ago, but she couldn't stand it. She just felt that there was more to life, more that she could give, more to contribute. And that is just wonderful. She is out there selling real estate at 89, going, she's 88 going on 89. Just amazing. That's so inspirational. Instead of, you work 9 to 5 and then you retire, you might travel, but then what? And for some people, that's enough, and that's great. But for people like me, I always feel retire is not a word in my vocabulary. I always feel there's something more that I can do. And I'm 62 and I feel I am just starting, and I have this whole vision, and that's what mainly drives me. It's my big vision. And to just get this word out again with my message to empower the 50 plus crowd through all the exercises that I do, but also the mindset, and, through my book, which has 12 different chapters with different things, from meditation to a positive mindset to how to prevent aches and pains and work correctly with your body, to eating healthy, and having a teamwork with your medical team and friends. And then the last chapter is anything is possible at any age. And that was actually what I wanted to write first about my book. My intention was to write like a coffee table book about 5 stories of interventions, 5 women, not women, women and men that had gone through the 50s, 60s, 70s, and all the way up to 90s. And they had some sort of reinvention in that decade. And then that was my main thing. So anything was possible at any age. But then when I started to write with my book coach, we just made it a much bigger book. It became my whole Nordic body system integrated into these 5 stories. And the last chapter is anything is possible at any age. Because now when you come to the last chapter, you've gone through everything, your mental health, your physical health, your social health, spiritual health. So now you're ready to do the next thing that you want to do in life.
that's so wonderful. You've been in business for a long time,
Yes.
and I've known you now for a few years, and it's so great to see how you keep growing and doing things. And what is one thing or a couple of things that you think really helped you in being successful as an entrepreneur?
Well, first of all, I've just been very lucky to have a big vision about what I want to do, though it might have changed. The last many years, it's been the same. But for example, in my teens, it was all about my running career. In the 20s, it was finishing my master's, coming over here. And then in my 30s, there was, I did some acting, but it all came down to more speaking, like improvisational theater that I could use now as a speaker. And I would say the last 35 years, it's been the same mission to what I said before, to empower the 50 plus crowd to live a fun, healthy, and fulfilling life. But the vision is really what dictates what I'm going to do. And so it's the big picture, being able to have that and then break it down into smaller steps, action steps that I put into my calendar. And every year I redo my vision board. I have one part of my vision board with pictures, images, words that just really gets me excited about what I want to do in life. And then on the other side of the vision board, I actually have what my goal and focus is for the specific year. And so that changes and becomes more precise. So in the beginning, it might be, let's say go back 10 years. I don't really know how long ago this vision that I'm not on now started, but let's say 10 years. So 10 years, it was like a big vision. And then it's become more and more focused because I feel that it's like Ingmar Bergman, he said, as a director, he would just shoot the arrow and just follow it. But then it would maybe take him, it would go out a little bit and come back to following that arrow. So the arrow was always there guiding him, but you would always be flexible for new ideas, but you were on the same path. So that's kind of how I feel, that I shoot my arrow to where I'm heading with my big vision, but then I'm also open to ideas that fits into that. So for example, all these seeds that I've been talking about, like a seed is planted and then many years later it comes up, oh, that fits perfect into my vision. So let's say yes to that, but say no to that because that doesn't fit in. I'm big on values as well. For the last probably 20 years, I've taken probably my values that I keep the highest 5 to basically base decisions that I'm going to make. So my 5 highest values right now that has been for the probably last 10, 15 years. My first one is health. My second one is love. My third one is freedom. Fourth one is contribution. And fifth one is community. So all those 5 values, personally or with business, are always part of my decision. Is this healthy for me? Does this bring love? Love can be not just romantic love, but, caring for somebody. And community, is this helping more than one person? Contribution, am I contributing to the world with what I'm doing? And freedom, is this giving me freedom to do, for example, freedom in my schedule, so I'm not totally bombarded with go, go, go every single second. So yeah, so all those 5 values are also very important in making my decisions, in going for this vision. And then you have just personality traits like being persistent, which I'm very persistent. I am very consistent. I know exactly what I want, and I keep doing the same thing over and over again moving towards my vision. If I have many other ideas popping up that are like, oh, that's a great idea. It used to happen more before, maybe in my 30s, when I was not as focused as I am today, but I would write them down and put them in a file and say, okay, It's not going to happen right now, but it's such a great idea. I'm just going to put it away somewhere that I have easily accessible to it, that maybe one day it will fit. So it's not like you go around with regrets, like, oh, I should have acted on that. I should have acted on that. You have the ideas, and you might not act on them today, but let's put them in a file where they're easily accessible in case you do want to do something about it one of these days. So there's many factors going into being successful. I've also been very lucky with, I've always wanted to, I didn't decide to be an entrepreneur, but I think my dad kind of primed me for it. I'm again number six out of six in six kids, so I'm number six. And he would always put articles on my desk about being the CEO, and, just articles like that, really empowering. And so I really think that planted a seed again, planted a seed that I could be a leader, that I could have my own company, etc. And then when I came to Los Angeles in 1989 and I got my green card, I decided to open up my own business only for the fact that I did not want only 2 weeks vacation and somebody decided when those 2 weeks were going to be, because
Yeah.
I wanted to have the freedom. Again, one of my values, I want to have the freedom to go back to Sweden when I wanted to. If there was a wedding, if there was a funeral, if there was a big thing that I just wanted to be part of, or I just felt I'm missing my family, I want to go back. That is why I started my own business, to have that freedom. And I didn't even realize that I had my own business, that I didn't work for anyone until many years later, when I started to write my first book. That actually, I was approached to write a book about Nordic walking back in early 2000. And that's when I realized, oh, I'm an entrepreneur. I have my own business. I didn't really run it as my own business, but I started definitely around 2000 to run it as a business, separate, personal from business, etc., and just set it up with. I have an S corporation for my business, and so it's very much set up as a business, and so it's like one little step at a time, and you just follow that vision. I feel also, for me, I've been very lucky. I've been able to follow my heart. I'm big on that. Again, ever since I was a kid, I always felt in my heart, in my gut. You know how you have intuitions? Follow your gut. I so believe in that. And it can happen like that. If you didn't follow your gut and you did something else, you're going to miss out. So
Hmm.
always listen to what your heart is saying. And we say follow your gut, but I feel it's your heart. Your heart is telling you to do something. Follow that. It might be scary, it might be outside your comfort zone, but follow it. See where it leads you. And you'll be so surprised that it leads you to something amazing that you might not have expected, instead of always being closed-minded, tunnel vision, and just going for something because somebody told you to do it. You have to stop and reflect and really sit down with yourself quietly. And if you sit long enough, quiet long enough, you can hear all the answers deep, deep within you. And that is what I call intuition, your inner guide, your inner wisdom. And I've always followed that, more so since 2016.
Hmm.
And that's when I really started to meditate and go further inwards. And I really think that if we trust that, then our fears, our anxiety, it's like people either live in the past or in the future. But if you meditate and just calm down and just really trust your insight that is deep, deep within you, then you're going to be okay.
That's beautiful. You know, that's really at the core of what I do. The first thing, with people, because I realize that a lot of the time that's all we need in life. We think we need all these things, but if we don't have that awareness that we do have this guidance inside, and we keep turning in other directions, it gets very difficult to go through life. Yeah, which was gonna be my last question for you, but you answered it already.
Oh,
So I've been
sorry.
asking, no, no, sorry. I've been really asking everybody, what their thoughts about inner wisdom is and their experience, but I feel like you've been telling us this entire call.
I answered your question before you asked it.
Yeah. No, but it's really, it's so important, I think, to hear it, because a lot of the narratives we still have is that it's the outside that makes us feel okay,
Yeah.
you know? And instead, when you talk to people who feel okay, they will always point to, at some point, I woke up to the fact that, I could calm down. I could follow my intuition. Love is important. The answer is in that direction. That's always first.
Yeah. Well, it's about prioritizing. Some people, they prioritize work. Some people prioritize family. Some people prioritize health. And of course, coming from a health and fitness background, I think health is the most important, because if you don't have your own health, then you can't help other people. And if you don't have a good health, both brain and body, you can't work. So I think the health is something that we need to prioritize. And with health, again, it's not just physical, but it's spiritual, mental, emotional, social. And that spiritual health is so important, especially today in the fast-paced society, to just take a few minutes. Like some people, they get afraid about sitting still because they're so afraid of their thoughts. And if we can just calm everything down, it just takes a few minutes. You can just sit and just focus on your breathing. We don't even have to call it meditation. It is just calming things down in your body. And it's easily done, but it's very hard to do for a lot of people. But I would say if there is one piece of advice that I would share with everyone,
Hmm.
is that to just take a few minutes every day and just sit with yourself and make it a little bit of a sacred moment. You don't have the phone accessible. You just take a few minutes and just sit with yourself and breathe, and just sit and listen to, you can ask a question and then just sit and wait for the answer within yourself. You'll be surprised how amazingly wise you are, your inner wisdom, how amazing it is. So I highly recommend that.
That's beautiful. That's fantastic. Wow, I could ask you so many other questions. Is there anything that you like to share more that maybe I didn't ask you? Anything
Wow, I
else?
think we covered everything from health to background to work and being entrepreneur, which is the main reason for this podcast, to empower people to either think about starting their own business and how to do it. I always feel anything is possible. And if you're thinking about starting something, always have a mentor that you can brainstorm with. I work very well with, if I want to do something, for example, I have an academy for fitness professionals. So it's an online certificate program. And for years, I wanted to create that. And I just didn't have the time or the energy to do it. So I hired somebody that would be my coach in developing this. And it was just so good to just have that half hour each week to just have somebody check in. Where are you? And so I highly recommend, if you can't get started. And the same thing with my last book. I was thinking about it and a year went by and I was like, I have to hire somebody that I can be accountable to because I know I want to write this book. It's so important. And the same thing, I hired this wonderful book coach, Kim O'Hara, and she helped me. I was accountable, but not only that. I mean, she's an incredible book coach. So it was much more than just being accountable. But that's how I make things happen. I see the vision, I see and feel what I want to do next. I might not always have the time or the energy. So I hire somebody that can either be my coach or my mentor in doing it. And so I highly recommend that as well. If you have a hard time getting started, to just get help from somebody that can help you out. And it can be as easy as just hiring somebody that you can be accountable for or to. And the last thing I just want to say, that we really emphasize our health because we, especially as we're aging, when we get into our 50s and 60s especially, every year we lose bone mass and muscle mass like 2%. And when you walk around, you don't really feel that my bones are weak. You might be feeling weak in your muscles because you might not be able to lift things that you used to lift. And maybe there are some aches and pains, and it kind of goes hand in hand. Like if the stronger you are, the less aches and pains because the body can better help you. And when it comes to working out, it's just really important that you do it correctly to stay injury free. But to build muscles, you want to go to fatigue. And when you go to fatigue, it stimulates the bone growth. So strong muscles mean strong bones, and they go together. So again, you may not walk around feeling you have weak bones, but I highly recommend when you get into your early 50s, maybe at 50, take a bone density test so it can be your baseline. Nobody tells you to do this, but I highly recommend it because then when you get into your 60s, you can compare and see, are you losing bone? Because one of these days you might fall. You might be lucky and nothing will happen, but you might also be unlucky and you can fracture something, especially when you get into your 80s. And if you don't have strong bones, you can fracture your hip to the point where there's no return. The fall is not going to kill you, but it's the journey, the rehab journey that might not get you out of the hospital. I've unfortunately have seen it. So I do want to scare you to the point where get going and take care of your health and build strength, eat protein so you can build the muscles and you can have strong bones because you are going to live longer. Medicine is going to keep you alive for a very long time. But the question is, how is that longer life going to be for you in quality? You want to have a quality life. You want to have a long life, but also a health span, a long health span. So it's not just about being 100 years old, it's being 100 years old with a strong body and mind so you can do all the things you want to do. And that is very hard for a 30 or 40-year-old to understand. When you get into your 50s, you might start getting depressed and feeling it's downhill, but you're halfway there. You have so many decades in you. And if you want to live a long life with quality, invest into yourself and really take care of your body. And it can be as simple as doing push-ups, doing squats, just build the strength, keep those bones and muscles strong.
And you have fantastic resources on your website, by the way, to do this. And I'm feeling scared and motivated here after the
Good.
pep talk. But yeah, can you share a little bit about how people can work with you? Because there's personal training, you in person and all that, but there's also wonderful online programs you have.
Yeah, and that's what I created. And that was so funny because when COVID happened, it was actually Lily Tomlin that said, "Hey, Malin, I don't feel comfortable working out in person anymore. Can you work out online?" I was like, "What?" Well, and she was in her early 80s then. And I thought, if she in her early 80s suggests working out online, there must be other people that want to do it. So I started during COVID with my online memberships, and there's three. There's Experience, There's commit and there's transform. Transform is the most popular one. But we also, if you don't want to commit to membership, a monthly membership, which gives you part to our community where you talk to like-minded people, you report to me, again, being accountable for what you've done or haven't done, and it creates a nice little community. But if you don't want that monthly membership, you can also take single classes for $9.95. And so that's on my website as well, nordicbody.com. You just go into that website, go under products and services, and you see the different memberships and the Nordic Body online classes. If you want to try out for free an online class, then there is a free workout video on the homepage of the nordicbody.com website. And it doesn't require any machines, no tools, no equipment, just you and your body as the weight, as the resistance. So that is a great place to start, to just sign up for that one and try it out. And if that's something, again, this is strength training. It's 9 exercises. They change every month. So we keep it very varied. And then there's different intensity from week to week. Coming from an athletic background, I always want to make sure that people stay injury free. So we vary the intensity as well. And we do it correctly, so not to injure ourselves. And you can actually reduce aches and pains through something called Nordic Body Reboot Program. And so there's many things you can do on the website, but I would start with signing up for the free workout video and just try that out. And that's the same workout that is in my book as well. But the workout video is movement, so you can watch it, and I give you detailed instructions. In the book, it's just photos.
Wow. That's so cool. Lots of options and lots of choices. I'll have all the links, of course, on the page for this podcast episode so people can easily find you. Well, first of all, I want to say thank you so much. This has been educational for me as well and a good reminder. And I'm really excited you said yes and you were able to participate in the podcast. Thank you.
Of course. I've always admired you and loved your energy. So my pleasure.
Thank you. And for everybody here, my name is Aurora Meneghello. You can learn more about me at repurposeyourpurpose.com. Thank you, Malin.
Thank you so much, Aurora. Bye.